So I've been playing Worse Than Death, a survival horror game where you go back to your hometown for your high school reunion, but things don't turn out to what they should be. Definitely check this one out if you're into survival horror games. Hello everybody and welcome to a new video, and today we are doing my Halloween special, which I didn't plan on doing. This is kind of last minute, but we're doing a survival horror hidden gems video on my channel. So I haven't done one yet for my own channel, but the reason I decided to do this was because I saw this channel called Ink Ribbon, and I've been watching them for a while. A very good channel, lots about survival horror games, gameplays, and all that good stuff. And his survival horror video made me laugh because he actually got in the costume for Leon. So it kind of like, all right, pumped me up. Say, hey, man, let me do my own survival horrors hidden gems videos. So this is what I'm bringing to you guys. I hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. So first game is going to be on the list is The Note. Now, The Note is a first-person survival horror game where a couple of friends are looking for some lost friends that went missing. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a couple weeks prior, and they decided to go look for him. The first stop, you end up in this village, and there's this big mansion you go into. Now, the game is played from a first-person viewpoint, and it's actually pretty cool because it kind of feels like a Resident Evil game, but just like in first-person view. When you take damage in the game, your vision becomes blurry, like your eyes will kind of shut a little bit. It seems like your vision will just kind of become hampered pretty much, and it becomes annoying. Through the doors in the mansion, you'll find like weird things like rats that can attack you, wolves, which is pretty trippy. And when you take damage, you want to just kind of like go back to your hotel and go to sleep. Now you get to choose how long you want to sleep for, but this could kind of take an effect when you meet people and you do missions for them or try to find out clues for them. You meet them back at certain times and everything like that. So it's a very inventive game, I think, and a lot of people don't know about it because it actually came out only in PAL territories in Japan. I think this game I don't know if it would have been a hit in America, but it definitely would have been one of those games that people would have remembered, I think, if you like the survival horror. So if you see The Note out in the wild, I would say definitely pick it up if you have a way to play PAL games. The game was also available in Japanese as well if you could read Japanese, but I think most of my audience probably wants to read it in English or hear it in English. So look for the PAL version of this game. Or if you already played it, let me know what you think of it. Next up, we have Obscure. Now, first thing I thought when I saw this game, have you ever seen the movie The Faculty? This is basically The Faculty if it was a video game. Even the character likenesses that I'll show you in a bit just kind of like resemble a lot of like teen stars back in the day. But basically, it's about high school students that find out that their high school is not what it seems. And there's been some missing students, and they decide to kind of like investigate themselves, which is hilarious. And here's the part where I'm talking about the old 90s trope of how they introduce characters in movies to zoom in. Oh god, that gets on my nerves. I thought it was okay back then, but now look at it now, it's like, oh man, it just really doesn't look cool. But that doesn't make the game bad or anything. This is a pet peeve of my, oh man. But anyways, guys, this game, one of the cool things about this game is it has co-op, drop in and out co-op, which is great. Survival horror games weren't really known for their co-op, and this was one of the first ones I remember having it next to Resident Evil Outbreak, but that was co-op. Now you start the game off as Kenny, and he's shooting some hoops after school, and it gets too late. I don't know why anybody would want to stay after school when it's at nighttime, man. It just really always creeped me out, at least the way my schools looked. But he ends up getting his cell phone stolen, so he goes and looks for it and finds another side of the school that he's never seen before. He also finds one of the missing students and decides to try. Now, I don't want to give up too much of the story, but Obscure is definitely one of the survival horror games I have to recommend to you guys if you want to look at something new. It's actually a bit pricey on the PS2 these days, but I believe the Xbox version is a bit cheaper. So if you're kind of tight on money, you could definitely go with that version. And also, Obscure has a sequel that is really cheap. It usually goes for around $10. and that is Obscure: The Aftermath. I don't know why they changed the name in America. In other places, it's just called Obscure Part 2, but the game takes place 2 years later. The kids are in college, yada, yada, yada. Next up, we have Forbidden Siren Part 2. Now, we got the first Siren for the PS2 in America. I guess it didn't really sell well. It was made by former team members of Team Silent, so you could really tell that they kind of brought their craft over to this game from the Silent Hill series. But I want to talk about Forbidden Siren 2 because I think that's the best game in the series. It only came out in PAL territories and in Japan. I don't want to go over the story too much because it's pretty confusing the way it's set up. You know, it takes place during different time periods and they kind of come together at the end. But one of the things I like about this game is that you're able to see through the eyes of your enemies, through sight jacking is what it's called. And you'll be using it a lot if you want to survive in this game. Usually the game consists of like short missions of you trying to get from point A to point B without detecting your enemies. And some of the levels you may have a character that has a gun, which is great. Sometimes you don't have a gun, so you want to kind of get by without alerting your enemies. There's 2 different types of enemies in this game. There's the darkness people, and then I think there's the zombie people. I forgot what the Japanese names for them were, but they're both pretty terrifying, and you don't want to run into either of them unless you got a firearm. Now, there's a total of 3 games in the series. The third game is actually a remake of the first game, so I just want to let everybody know that, but I consider the second game to be the best one, so definitely check this one out.
So you're the new guy, huh? I'm Pamela Martell. Nice to meet you. Okay, Briscoe. I'm borrowing the new guy until we start shooting. He's
good old Michigan report from hell. This game is a first-person survival horror game, as you can see, where you play as a cameraman, and you actually assist reporters in the game, trying to find out the scoop of what's going on. One of the best ways I like to sum this game up is to kind of compare it. If you guys have seen that movie, The Fog, well, if The Fog, the movie, was a video game, this would probably be somewhat close to what it would be. Now, you're investigating the mystery of the fog and what's going on with it, but what it really does is it's really infecting people and turning them into horrible monsters. So if you encounter somebody who's been in the fog too long, you might want to stay away from them, as they might have some crazy looking effects from it.
Oh my God!
What are you doing? Run! Get away from there! Come on!
What? Just keep quiet.
Behind you! There's a...
So even though you're trying to find out the scoop of what's going on, you're trying to protect the reporters as well, but sometimes it doesn't turn out well, and I just want to let people know not to get attached to them, because they probably will die on your first playthrough, which is okay. I mean, but still, you know, just try to do your best, because it's funny with this game is they could get killed by like a rat on the floor or just all kind of weird stuff. So you have to try to do your best to kind of protect them or whatnot. But I just like the game's atmosphere. You know, I haven't ran into anything that's super scary yet, but just the the beginning parts and like later, a little bit later on, just the ambience, or like how everything is set up. Like there's like the town is deserted, and it's just really creepy walking through the hallways and just going through the town. So if you see this game, or if you're able to play it, this is the PAL version of the game. I would say it's definitely worth picking up. But you guys let me know in the comments if you played this game or what you think of it. So Hellnight didn't really have a big release. It came out in Japan as I think Dark Messiah, and it only came out in certain parts of PAL territories, and it's very limited over there, so a lot of people don't really know about it. But this game pretty much is pretty crazy how it starts off, because you start off in the subway pretty much going home, but ends up that there's a monster on the loose, and the monster is after you. So there's a crash on the subway and you're trying to escape, and you meet another character named Naomi. Now her ability is she's able to sense when the monster is around, so she's very handy when it comes to like if the monster is close to you, but at the same time she can't really fight against it. She can only warn you of its presence. Now my advice, when you first see this monster and you know you'll see him just kind of like crash down to the ground, they'll kind of put you in a cinematic mode to where you see him get up. But once you see him get up and you're able to move, don't wait around. Get out of there. If you wait, he will charge right at you, and he might get you. So don't mess around. Get away from him because you can't fight back. And the first thing, if you have somebody with you like Naomi, if you get caught by the monster, she'll be the first one to get killed. It'll kill her. Then you won't have her ability to kind of help you out, so it makes the game harder. But you do meet other people that have certain abilities that are able to help you in the game. But I like Naomi because she kind of like clues you into where the monster is at, and she'll tell you if it's hiding around the corner, and just like, it's just good to have her around. Now, like you saw in the earlier footage when I was running around, you run pretty fast, but you saw the screen flash red. That means you're tired, and of course when you're tired, you're not moving that fast, and that could get you caught up with the monster actually finding you. So just be careful of that. Hellnight has a lot of surprises for you, and I didn't want to show you one of the main surprises, but I will tell you that you end up finding an underground bunker city type area, and things from that point on in the game get pretty crazy. So you have a lot to look forward to in this game, so definitely check Hellnight out. Next up, we have Hydrophobia. Now, this is Hydrophobia Legacy. This is the last version of the game. The first one was just Hydrophobia for 360. It was exclusive for a while. Then they wanted to fix some issues with that game, so it became Hydrophobia Pure. But the PS3 version is the definitive. So you play as a young engineer named Kate, and for some reason during the festival, she wants to go to work on her day off. Now, I just want to let you guys know that Hydrophobia is one of those games that was really pushed for the water effects. They just really did an outstanding job, Dark Energy, before they closed down, like just with the whole water effects with this game. Survival horror dealing with water. Well, I'll get into that a little bit later, but first, when you start the game, you end up in the elevator and an explosion happens, and pretty much this is where the game gets crazy, right in the beginning, like it should. But anyways, your first objective in this game is to try to get out of the elevator, alive, of course. And you know, it's just weird with this game because it's like there's constant explosions happening. There's just all kind of stuff going on around you, and it's like it's just a real active environment. You know, stuff blowing up. You know, stuff being flooded. People running around. It gets really insane, and it was very impressive for the 360 and PS3. I thought, at least, because this game originally, I believe, came out back in 2010, 2011. And unfortunately, it's only a download. I always hoped that it would get put on a disc, but that didn't happen. And originally, also, this game was going to be a trilogy, but they weren't able to do that, so they kind of closed it up with this game. Now, with a lot of survival horror games, you're going to deal with a lot of locked doors. You know, something may look like it's open and you're going to get out, but yeah, you can forget that. You know, you're going to have to go find something. Hack through something and learn how to open certain doors or whatnot. So this game has really keeps things fresh. You know, you never really feel like you're going back and forth with this game. You're kind of like always feel like you're moving forward. And one thing with this game, environments that are around you, don't expect them to be the same. There's always some kind of crazy explosion going on, changing things up, and it's just really hectic. And I really wish that we could have saw what Dark Energy was going to do with this series. I think they did an amazing job on this game, but unfortunately, you know, this game came out back in the day when like Kickstarters weren't really even out, and you know, they were able to produce the first game, but they didn't really make any money on it because nobody really knew about it, and it was only exclusive to the 360 for a little while before it came to the PS3. So I'm not really sure that helped. But a lot of companies, when they take that dive into making something different, you know, I guess they'll accept money for exclusivity or whatnot. But like I said, I just don't really think it helped, and I think it ultimately helped kill this game because by the time it came out for PS3, it seemed like nobody just, I mean, not that people didn't care, they just didn't know about it, because it should, you know, certain games have a certain window to where it's good to release them. But like during that time, of course, it was like the Call of Duty era. So, I mean, if you didn't have your game out at a certain time when it was safe, you could get lost in the shuffle pretty much. So right here where you can see the water rushing through, and you can see how it'll push you back. You'll be underwater. You kind of have to fight your way through it. It gets pretty crazy. And not only that, you'll be going against terrorists in this game. So trying to survive drowning and all that stuff, you know, you got to go through terrorists as well trying to survive. So if you see this game, if it's still available through download, definitely pick it up. But I remember it was only like $3. Next up, we have the Gregory Horror Show. Now, this is based off of a series that came on, I don't know if it came on in America or just Japan only, but I'm guessing it was pretty popular over there and decided to make a video game for it. Now, the video game only came out, it was originally supposed to come out to America, but only came out in PAL territories in Japan. And basically, you play as an unfortunate soul that enters Gregory's motel, and you can't get out. The only way to get out of this hotel is if you collect the souls of the inhabitants there. And it's tricky how to do that. Some people may just want a piece of candy, and they'll give you their soul for that. Others are just all kind of craziness. So some people will actually steal souls from you, and you have to chase them down. And you can only like meet certain people at certain times and everything. So you actually go to sleep, you meet death, and you actually give him the souls, and it shows you how many souls you need to actually leave the hotel. I've always said, like, this is a survival horror game, kind of like I would say aimed towards kids. If a kid's trying to get into a survival horror game, this would probably be the one. One of the things I really like about this game is the voice acting. The voice acting is pretty funny and pretty hilarious at times. The game doesn't look that great to me, of course. It looks pretty simple, but it's going for a simple look, which is totally fine. But the selling point for me in this game is actually the funny dialogue. It's pretty hilarious, and I'm guessing it just copied that from the show. So anyways, Gregory Horror Show, let me know what you guys think of this one. Alright, so we made it to my number one, Chaos Break. So this is the sequel, or semi-sequel, to Chaos Heat, which only came out in arcades. Now that game is pretty awesome as well. But this one is actually more of a survival horror game, where the arcade is more of like a run and gun shooter kind of in a way. Now at the beginning of the game, you get to play as two characters, Rick and Mizuki. For this playthrough, I go with Mitsuki. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But I just think she's the cooler of the characters, even though they're pretty much the same. But you're going to the laboratory to find out what's going on. And of course, we know it's not going to be anything good. So you're there to go rescue some people, but you find out much, much more. Now, even though I don't like to compare this game, it really feels like a mix of Dino Crisis and Resident Evil in a way. So that's how I would kind of sum this game up. But it's more arcade-like, because if you know what to do in this game, honestly, this game will only take you probably 2.5 hours to beat. But it's one of those old school survival horror games to where you can actually mess yourself up. Like if you use up too much ammunition, you'll be stuck. But unlike Resident Evil and Dino Crisis, you actually have a melee attack, which you may want to use as a last resort against certain enemies. I mean, you really pick the enemies that you're going to do melee combat with. If it's like a bigger enemy or a big monster, obviously you're not going to want to go like do any physical. I always felt it was a shame that a lot of people didn't know about this game. I actually found out about it only probably 4 years ago, and as soon as I found out about it, I bought it. I actually bought a sealed copy of it off eBay, and it just like it sucks because this game, as far as I know, it wasn't released as a digital download. So the only way you're going to be able to get this game officially is if you buy a physical copy of it. But let me know if you guys know if it's on the PSN in Japan or in Europe. Now, being that this is a shorter game, because like I said, if you know what you're doing in this game, it'll probably take you like 2.5 hours to beat it. First time I would say maybe 4 to 5 hours, but the action starts fast and somebody gets killed and it's pretty gross, and you get your first glimpse as the first boss, so you already know what you have to look forward to later in the game. And this goat worm that you're seeing right here like surprises you at certain points, so I just want to let you guys know to be ready for that. But here are some of the smaller enemies, like the parasites, and I'm going to do some melee attacks on them to show you guys what it looks like. These enemies are pretty annoying because they actually latch onto you, but you have a lot of moves at your disposal. You have a dodge maneuver, which you can pretty much roll around because you see the melee attacks, and you have your napalm attack, which is your special move. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you in this video. I want to thank you guys for watching, and happy Halloween. Radical Reggie, and I will see you guys later.